The world is full of leaders who are exhausted. We have been conditioned to believe that leadership is a performance, a list of behaviors to mimic, a set of KPIs to hit, and a professional mask to wear. We are taught that if we just do more, we will eventually it will be enough. But this obsession with doing leadership has left us stressed, authenticless, and stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. What if the very act of trying to lead is what is actually stopping you from being effective? Today's episode is titled Stop Leading, Start Being, the provocative path to authentic authority. Our guest today, Will Steele, is a man who knows what it's like to lead in high stakes environments. As a former RAF pilot and the author of Free to Lead, Will argues that your leadership genius isn't something you need to go out and find. It is already there, buried under a lifetime of social conditioning and internal blocks. He isn't here to give you another checklist. He's here to show you how to strip away the noise so that your natural authority can finally emerge. We are going to challenge the common practices of the corporate world and ask, are you willing to stop leading long enough to actually become a leader? Well, it is a pleasure to have you here with me in the Growth Hacking Culture podcast.
Ivan, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction as well.
I love it. I take some time to craft it according to the person, and this time it was really a pleasure because in the area of being authentic, there is so much that being said in books, and sometimes it sounds like crap, man. When they tell you be
Yeah.
authentic, but at the same time you don't. If you are authentic, people are going to eat your brain. What the hell? So that's what I wanted to discuss with you today.
Right. Very good. Good.
Um, Coming back to your book, most leadership books are about adding new tools to your toolkit, and you argue that leadership is actually about subtraction, removing limiting beliefs. In a world obsessed with upskilling and more, why is the most effective thing a leader can do to actually stop doing things?
Well, it's not so much stop doing things. It's more stop trying to lead like you think you're supposed to, or you've been shown, or you think, there's so much noise, as you said, about leadership
Mm,
and how it should be and how you should be. And I've fallen victim to that myself. In the book, I give two main examples where I had a breakthrough in that. I broke out of that having to be a certain way. Um, talked about the Royal Air Force. To be a pilot in the Royal Air Force, you have first to be an officer, and you know, so that's at Royal Air Force College, Cranwell. And before I went there, I had lots of advice from friends that had been through from universities. Keep your head down, don't stand out, don't be mouthy. Keep your opinions to yourself. Just keep your head down, get through, because you've got to do it to be able to start pilot training. So it was something to just get through. So there I was, all quiet and just going along with everything. 16 weeks into this really intense training, running around, cleaning your shoes all night, and all the stuff you see on TV. We were doing that, and then 16-week point, the flight commander brought me into his office. He said, "Look," he said, "I can't graduate you. You're like a ghost. I can't recommend it. Officers need to speak up. Officers need to be present there, and you're not being that." So he said, "You got two choices. You can leave the Air Force, or you can do the program again. You can repeat it." I went, "Ugh." I wanted to be a pilot. You have to do the program to be a pilot. You got to be an officer. So it's just, okay, well, I'll do it again. And, I got back to my room. I was like, oh, man, that didn't work. Jeez. I was upset. I couldn't believe it. All my friends were going to graduate in 2 weeks. And there was failed. I didn't fail stuff, but I really got clear. Look, that was not, I wasn't being myself. I'm just going to be myself. Fine. Effort, screw it. I'm just going to be myself and let the chips fall where they fall. So I just went into everything just being myself, responding to what we were dealing with and dealing with it, and not holding anything back, just being myself. And 18 weeks after that, I graduated with a leadership trophy. So I wasn't trying to be an Air Force officer or an Air Force how I'm supposed to be. I let go of all of that and just was being myself. And that really was powerful. It really worked, and it was freeing. I didn't have to act. I didn't have to try and be anything. I just was being myself, which, was the beginning of something. I hadn't done any ontological work. I hadn't done any self-help courses. I hadn't done any training, development in this area. But it was really a wake-up call for me to just be myself. That's when I was successful. Then wind the clock forward, I don't know, 20 years from there. And then in my next career, training to lead programs for a company called Landmark. I was a Landmark forum leader. I passed the training, and then you got 20 programs to produce certain measures as you lead. You can measure how many people are in the program, how many people leave during the program, how many people register for the seminar, how many people register for the next seminar. There's ways to measure the effectiveness. And I tried every which way. I got trained, I watched other leaders, I got advice, I got coaching, I got all of that stuff. And it wasn't going too well. It was hit and miss. As sometimes effective, and sometimes I miss a measure, and sometimes it was effective, and sometimes I miss a measure. And it got down to the last course, and they sent me to a place with a reputation that nobody had been successful at this program, at this place, particular place, Van Nuys in north of Los Angeles, and nobody there wanted to drive into the middle of Los Angeles. Driving in Los Angeles is pretty horrific. It can take you 3 hours to do a 30-minute journey if you hit the traffic, and it's a bit unpredictable. So none of them ever really signed up to go and do the advanced program in Los Angeles, which was after the program I was leading. So the odds were stacked against me. The night before the program, I'd normally have a coaching call with my coach about the program, get set up for it, any questions get answered, any strategies that we come up with. And my coach came on the call, my mentor came on the call, and the chief of the whole designation committee was on the call. And they said, well, we've got no coaching for you because you're going to do whatever you do. So, good luck. We'll see if at the end of the program you're still a leader, because if this doesn't turn out, you're no longer going to be with us. So it was like, I got a gun to my head. And it was a similar moment to the Air Force. It was like, well, that didn't work. I just tried to, I don't know how to do this. Okay, I'm just going to go be myself. I'm just going to go and love these people, give them everything I've got, really love them, and let's see what happens, And it was a knockout program. It was off the charts. All the results were off the charts. More people went to do the advanced course than had ever done it before. They brought, all the people from their life for the final session to find out about this program. They wanted them to do it. It was like, wow, what happened? What happened was I released myself from trying to do it, trying to be how I'm supposed to be, or, do it right. Or no, I just was with people and dealing with what they were dealing with. I was like present and with them. Mm. And if you're just being in the moment, present, and dealing with what there is to deal with, that's real leadership. Is your leader? I mean, that's leadership. Leadership, speaking up. In my definition is, it's speaking up when you need to speak up, and it's dealing with what you need to deal with right there in the moment. And if you're any percentage of your attention is on how I'm supposed to do this, or trying to do it a certain way, or be seen in a certain way, you're not present. You're not there with the person.
I totally understand it. And in what you said, in fact, I see two major hurdles for normal human beings about being genuine as a leader. The first one is about the assumptions that we get about the expectations. You mentioned the example that when you went to the army, you found out that you believed that it was about following orders and being don't say anything. So, and we
Mm.
all have these assumptions about especially about the army. I have still this assumption that it is like that. The
Yes.
second
Well, look, in
hurdle.
certain situations, it is like that.
Yeah.
I once got. It was a joke, but I was on a joint forces. I used to rock climb, so I went and did rock climbing with the army, and all together. And this sergeant joked. He said, your problem is this. If I say get down, everybody would hit the deck. You'd be go, what do you mean get down? Do you want me to kneel down? Do you want me to lie down? I mean, and it'd be too late. You get shot.
The second hurdle for people, it is about the understanding of who you are genuinely. That I mean, having enough self-awareness about the person that you are. Most of us, we get so much until the age of 40. Maybe I didn't define, I didn't write down what exactly I was, exactly I didn't get to know myself enough. And I guess this is the moment where you make the choices. Like, for instance, if I imagine myself in the army being the person that I am, I would be like hugging people because I'm somebody who is Latin, touching people
Yes.
and all the stuff.
Yes.
In a good way, by the way, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
So this is the moment where you are confronted that is there a match between the person that I am and the context where I am? Is it going to be a match? Because maybe in some cases my personality will not fit, and then we have also to take the decision of saying this is not for me. Because if we leave forced to play the game for a long time, this is where people feels frustrated, and frustration drives to burnout, frustration drives to not feeling good enough or about what you do. Is that correct, that we have to do the exercise about defining who we are before being?
Right. It's a good one, right? I think it's, trying to find out who we are and define who we are. That you can end up classifying yourself as your persona. And a persona is something that's kind of got stuck, you get stuck with this and you get stuck with that and you become like this and maybe you're the life and soul of the party. But if you go all the way back, maybe you're the life and soul of the party because you decided something early, and now being the life and soul of the party, being friendly, being this, being that, is to make up for something about you. So it's actually not really who you are. It's a way of being and acting that you have taken on originally to compensate for something. So no matter how much you be that, and it feels normal, and it feels authentic, it feels like this is really me, I'm being me. But actually, when you really take that apart, it's not it's like with this and with that and with the other, and we become constrained in certain ways of being and acting that we now identify with and call me. That's me, isn't it? Yeah. But this me that you've become is a smaller version of the real you. And when we can see, oh, that's because you decided this. Oh, and that goes, and that, and you take away all those automatic now learned ingrained ways of being and acting that you call you. If you then peel them all back, that there's no limitation. There's no way you have to be. There's no way you're supposed to be. There's just being in the moment. And your attention's not on you. Your attention's on what's happening. Your attention's on the other person. So you know, when you say who am I, it's all right. Okay, if you really want to get into that, it's a quite long inquiry. You know, you could start with, oh, my name's Will. Well, that's just your name. Somebody gave you that name. That's not who you are. Oh, okay. Well, you know, um, I'm a coach. Well, no, that's your profession. That's what you do in life. It's not who you are. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm an Englishman. No, that's where you were born. You just happen to be born there. That's not who you really are. God. Well, I'm a man. Come on, you can't get. I mean, surely that's it. Well, no, that's just your gender. That's just, you know, your apparatus, what you happen to have. You know, but is it who you really are? You know, and if you go down that line, you get to a point where you go, well, I have no idea who I am.
Mm.
You know, and now it's time to get someplace, because consider there's no fixed way that you are or any way you have to be. The possibilities are limitless. Being is infinite. There's any which way of being available to you, and acting is the same. So, you know, if you start this real inquiry into who you are, you've got to start with who you're not. I'm not this. Oh, I'm not that. I'm not this. I'm not this. Until you get back all the way back down to, well, nothing. I'm not anything. I'm here. You know, we can get really kind of deep and philosophical, and you know, but actually, who are you? You know?
Exactly. So what I like about this discussion is that you are saying is that we have to be able to distinguish in the path to self-awareness, to distinguish between behaviors, acts that we do that are visually, this is not what we are, or features like I dress in that way. I'm thinking back, and I want you to do this mental exercise, Will. You look at me and just think 15 years old Ivan had long hair, had makeup, was dressed as a gothic. So this is
Mm.
who I believed I was back when
Yeah,
I was 15. Long, especially the long hair. I'm pretty sure that you have that image.
yeah. Well, if you
So
look at how that came about, right? Look how that came about, because you know, you can look at it at anything. I used to be a rock climber, right? But there's a time before you actually for yourself are that. So I can imagine with Gothic, right? There's a time before you were Gothic. You know, you're a kid growing up, and you know you see the other people, and you know, and they listen to that music, and say, oh, okay, let me listen to. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. Okay. Oh yeah, well, how do you become a Gothic? You
mm,
know, well, you got to wear those clothes. All right, great. You got to listen to that music. You got to do that with your hair. You got to put the makeup on. Okay, now you dress up. You feel a bit awkward to start with, and then at some point, it just becomes the way it is. You've brought yourself into existence as a goth, and now you are one.
exactly.
Like I did with rock climbing. You know, it's like watching other people rock. How do you get into that and getting them to let you come with them? And then, you know, and then I bought a few little pieces of equipment, and then I bought a rope. Oh my God, now I've got a rope, right? And then we were going climbing. And at some point, was a rock climber.
Mm,
I am a rock climber. I wake up in the morning. How's the weather? You know, I was thinking as a rock climber. I was seeing the world as a rock climber. Okay. Oh yeah. Look at that crag there. Well, it comes back there, you know, and you're already into how I'm going to need to be to get up that thing. You know, it just, you become it,
mm,
and it's something you've brought into existence as you. You are this.
mm. I like this idea of instead of defining who you are, is to go into the path of defining who you are not, peeling off everything that is unnecessary so that we can really be authentic. Uh,
Mm.
but regarding authenticity, sometimes it's considered like as a buzzword that usually means being nice or sharing a hobby. But real authenticity involves revealing blind spots that might make a leader look a little bit sometimes weak. How can a leader be a truly authentic in high stakes environment without being eaten alive by their own team, or sometimes the board of director if you are in the corporate world?
Well, I think that's that, you know, certainly when you first start on this journey, I wouldn't do that publicly. I wouldn't, start. You gotta go through something and deal with something when you're doing this kind of work. So you do that with a coach. So if I'm in a conversation and I notice myself getting all reacted, which I now can identify. Before I couldn't. I didn't. I'm just annoyed. This person's annoying. No, I'm reacting. There's a reaction going on. So I'll get on the call to my coach. I'll call my coach and say, I'm just all reacting right now. I don't. Why am I reacting? And then we'll get into a conversation to distinguish what's going on. Oh, I'm reacting. My integrity's out with this. I didn't see to this before I came along to this meeting. I didn't plan this and I didn't prepare that. Oh, my integrity's out. Oh, gosh. Okay, got it. That's it. And the moment I am responsible for that, I've now got power. I'm now responsible. I'm not reacting. And I can be in the meeting. I can be in the conversation with those people with power. I don't have to necessarily, unless it's directly impacting what's going on, tell them about that. It doesn't mean I'm being inauthentic with them. No, I've got myself straightened out, and now I'm be able to be in the conversation fully as myself. So, and there's times in the moment you could, I'll give some examples like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting defensive right now. Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, good. Just say again what you said. Let me just really listen. So I'm getting authentic in those moments when I stopped being myself and I stopped being in the moment. And there's ways to do that and say that people actually, it's the opposite of what you think. People appreciate it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't listening. Can you say that again? I just got distracted with a thought. I'm not going to pretend to listen. I'm now, can you say it again? And people it's amazing. People go, yeah, okay. And they just say it again. It's quite amazing. People, it's not what you think. That's all our mind being concerned about, worried about what people think, which, by the way, is a huge restriction on people's freedom. There's all worrying about I've just come back from leading in the Middle East, and you said you're in the Middle East. And one of the biggest constraints people have is their fear of what people are going to think or say about them. And look, it's everywhere. I've led programs all over the world, and you get into it, it is amazing how human beings worry so much about what other people think. It's automatic. You were born into this way of thinking. And until you can interrupt that,
I love this point, especially about what people think, because I think that this is one of the limitations that we put ourselves to be authentic. But you have also mentioned something that is quite important in the path to become authentic: the need of having a coach. Now, let's define a little bit this story about coach. And I wanted to ask you, so what could be the major difference of an awesome human coach versus me having a chat with a bot, an AI bot, and reflecting? If I take just the simple definition that a coach acts as a mirror of what we are saying, because we as humans, when we are having all our ideas in our brain, we don't take the perspective to assess if what we are thinking might be true or not, because we are full of subjectivity, we're full of emotions, we don't see reality correctly. And as you say, that sometimes when saying it and somebody repeating back to you, you feel like, oh, this is what I mean, is that correct? And you reassess, you question your beliefs. Now, what makes a an awesome coach? Is it just about the mirroring, the reflection of having someone to share and having back the what we say is true or not, or is there something else that can differentiate human coach versus an AI bot, let's say?
Yeah, well, information, the route to getting access to being is not through information. It's not learning more stuff. It's not getting your answer. You can have questions forever,
Yeah.
That's automatic. But what about this? But what about that? But what about that? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? None of that alters your being. So, if I look who the best coaches I've had, because in the coaching world, if you like, there's a coaching world. There's people are marketing and I'm a coach and this and that and the other. And people go on a course and now they've done a course and now they're qualified as a coach, and, that works. I've got mostly coaching is I've done this and I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing without all the upset and making mistakes that I made. I'm going to show you how to go from A to B, right? So that's mostly now what coaching seems to be in the world. Now, there's some of that in all coaching, but for me, it's not real coaching. For me, coaching is challenging you to see what's actually going on with you. And sometimes that's just listening, like you said, what I call recreating the person. And then they see their thinking and things get clear. We come in all mixed up, everything's on, and you get it, and we get to what's really going on, and now there's clarity. So, for me, if I look back, my best coach was called Brian Rednier, and he was unbelievably present, very similar to Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle wrote the book The Power of Now. And he's very present. He's really present when he's talking. And it's kind of uncomfortable being with him because he's so present. Whereas with Brian, for me, when I was being coached by him, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was like the experience of really being gotten, really being known. Like he really gets it. He really, that I've not had anybody I've experienced really listen the way he listens. You say something and it's like it just disappears. Oh, well, what's your problem? Well, I'm worried about blah, blah, blah. And it just went, phew. And you go, okay, what else? And now that thing I just said, it just disappeared. And now we're getting deeper into what's actually going on. And I get off the calls with him and it's like, I don't know what we just talked about, but wow, I'm freed up. It was transformational, and I've been coached by people who are not that way trained, and it doesn't really work for me. They can tell me this, and this, and you need to do this, and this. And I had a coach this last year for that. And it didn't really work very well for me,
Well, you made me think about when people used to go, now less and less people does it, to go to confession. So the role of the priest back in the days, it was a little bit like a coach to unload a little bit your brain of everything that matters and make it disappear. It could be with a prayer or without a prayer, it doesn't matter. But it looked to me a little bit certain similarities. I'm not a big follower of religion, but that's my
Yeah.
basic understanding of, of Christianity and confession.
Well, it
You,
sometimes can look a little bit like confession, when you get what we call getting something complete, getting some complete. I'm acknowledging this, I'm acknowledging that. So it kind of, yes, it very similar, resembles that, but it's, if you take the morality out of it, if you take the good and bad out of it, it's just, this is what there is to communicate. This is what there is to resolve. This is what we have to sort out. We're sorting something out. I'm telling the truth about something. I said I was going to do this and this, and I didn't do it. So now what? How are we going to handle that?
Um, I think it is in your book that is mentioned that you use something called ontological approach, looking at the nature of being rather than just doing. Most business leaders, and you certainly know, hate this woo-woo philosophy. They want KPIs and ROI. How do you convince a hard-nosed, results-driven executive that their way of being is more important than their quarterly strategy? How do you do that?
Well, you can have a great strategy, and strategies are very useful. Obviously, you make a plan and you follow the plan, um, and you have a strategy. But if you take all the actions and the results don't happen, then you look at, well, I took all the actions, but I was being annoyed and frustrated the whole time. Oh, no surprise the actions didn't happen. Or if I took all the actions and I was being great with people and I was being connected with people and I was really serving people, and wow, look at the results.
Mm.
So rather than woo-woo, it's actually about effectiveness. It's about performance. It's about, performance is action. Yes. If you don't take action, nothing happens.
Mm.
But the context inside of which you're taking those actions, which really shapes your being, is everything. So if you're inside a context of survival and having to make it, and if I don't make it, I'm going to get fired, you're not really present. There's no being
Mm.
in the interactions you're having with people, and we're people, But if the context is I'm being of service, this is wonderful, I just want to help you as much as I could possibly help you, it's a whole other experience and a whole other outcome that becomes available. So it can be to the, unfamiliar person, it could sound woo-woo. Well, what's all this nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually open up to it and try it on and see, you'd be amazed how people respond. People appreciate being, related to by someone who's really there, really present.
Uh, and here I have another element that I have picked up on this journey to authenticity is when you mention, uh, in fact, it is the sense of purpose. So we need to know, in order to be authentic, what are we for? This sense of purpose you mentioned, I'm for the services of other people, for instance, but a lot of human beings confuse the job description of what they are accountable for as purpose, which is not. It's about you as human beings. So we have to craft or take the time in order to be natural into this moment, this being, to at least know directionally what are we for, what do we aim to do in this world. It's not for the company, it's not for the army, it is as a human being, what do I want to give to this planet?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you look at purpose, it's not something to find. Like, if I psychoanalyze myself, I'm going to find my purpose. It's a creation. So
Mm.
you look at, why are you doing what you're doing? Well, I'm doing it to, you know, um, in the book I talk about. I went to the Middle East. I have a client, and he's from Egypt, right? And he's very successful across the Middle East with his health care work. He's got a different way of looking at healing. It's all about imbalancing any imbalance in your emotions is this, that's why you're ill. And if you can sort that out, and he has a way to sort that out, people get cured. It's just really brilliant. And he said, but what we really need in the Middle East is a leadership program, particularly for women. And he and I go back a long way. In 2000, I led his leadership program in London in my previous company. I led leadership programs for 8 years.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay, well, we'll have to create it. Can't copy what I did before, because that's not, you can't do that, right? So we have to create it inside of what they really need, what those actual people are dealing with. So, I had to do quite a lot of research. We spent a year creating that program, and creating it in the Middle East, and so I'm about to do that. I've got to create a powerful context for this, right? So that I'm really empowered to do this, because it's not easy. It's in Arabic. I'm being translated. It's a new culture that I'm not used to. I don't know a lot about really, disregard everything on the television, because it's all, who knows, propaganda. It could be what they want you to think. I'm going to just put all that to one side and discover for myself who these people are, right? So now, why am I doing this? So you start with the purpose, right? What is your purpose here? Well, you can start with the obvious. Well, I'm doing it because, Ahmed, he asked me to do it. Okay, great. All right, good. Well, yeah. But why are you doing it? Why do you say yes? What is it why are you doing this? Well, I don't know, make a difference to people. Oh, okay. That sounds interesting. And why'd you do that? Well, that's what my life's about. I'm about making a difference with people. I want to make a difference. That's it. This is an opportunity to make a difference. All right, great. So my purpose in life is to make a difference. And this is an opportunity to fulfill my purpose. So that's okay. That's very good to get that. But you can extrapolate that even further. You can now create a vision. So how do you do that? So, well, what's the fullest expression of fulfilling this purpose in the world? All right, well, make a difference to these people. All right, great. Free them up. Give them power. Now, what if they do that and then the people around them do that? What if we get lots and lots of people to do that? What's that going to make available? Well, it's a world where people, are for each other. People work things out. People are allowed to be themselves. People, make a difference. People get things to work, Oh, we're short of food over it. Let's get that to work. Or let's get society to work. Or, why are we having a war? Let's just work this out, And it sounds simple and simplistic, but actually, it doesn't mean it's easy, but actually, there's an opportunity here to transform the leadership of the Middle East. Wow. Wow, that's what I'm up to. So it goes from, getting clear for yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and then creating the most empowering context you can. And it is a creation. It's not the truth. It's a creation for myself. That's what I'm up to. And when life gets difficult, or you get challenged, or things don't go the way you think they're supposed to go, you got to remind yourself why we're doing this. Oh, we're transforming the Middle East. Oh, okay, the leadership of the Middle East. All right, great. Then I was in Morocco. I'm leading a program there, and half the program's on Zoom, this big screen, and there's 80 people in the room, and I've got wearing a headset because it's been translated. The translators are actually in Cairo. We're in Morocco. Moroccan Arabic is quite different to Egyptian Arabic. Yeah. So the translators couldn't quite understand some of what was being said, and they were making mistakes. My business partner, Ahmed, he does understand Moroccan Arabic. He's in the room with me. He's then correcting the translator. This is all in my headset. My microphone is coming through my own headset, so I'm hearing myself feedback, and the participant is speaking to me in Arabic. And the argument about the English is going on, and I'm trying to listen and be present with this person who's sharing their heart out about what they're dealing with. And this is all happening. And I got to go, okay, this is what it looks like right now to be transforming the leadership of the Middle East. This is just what it looks like. And no point getting annoyed by it. No point getting frustrated by it. No point shouting at anyone. And I just shared it with people. Say, look, I'll just right now, this is really difficult. The translation's got a breakdown. Internet was breaking off, and I've got this headset going on. So let's just slow it all right down, because the thing that matters is I get what's going on with you, and we support you in getting what you need. I'm talking to the person at the microphone, So why I share all that is, it's all of it coming together, but it's inside an empowering context. So if you create an empowering context for yourself and you do that work, it puts things into perspective, in an empowering way, no matter what it is you're dealing with.
The situation that you just described with translators, arguments, and lack of presence when you need the most, it's totally relatable. I have been in similar situations in the Middle East. Now, let's extrapolate the situation. As a leader, many of us have gone through the process of always replicating a little bit the situation where you were in this conference. That means that we are thinking about what we are going to say because we want to look smart instead of just listening to what the person is saying, uh, l- watching the atmosphere. So we have a tendency to be, as leaders, to be perfectionists because we are also afraid to fail, and we are also afraid of judgment, the regard of somebody else toward us. And I have the impression that this is a major challenge for a lot of leaders. How can they learn to be present, to remove all this noise that inside of your head that is saying, correct this, think about that, instead of interacting and looking like right now I have forgotten about the questions that I was supposed to ask you. I want to be present just because you insisted on that area, and that's why I'm asking you this big challenge that has happened to me and many others in the work life.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Very good. And you kind of worked yourself through it, if you notice just what happened. You got yourself really present to communicating what you're trying to communicate, right? Yeah, well, that's kind of how what it looks like. You have to get, so it's something to develop and it's something to get trained in, which is part of my coaching with people. You got to get that those thoughts are just thoughts. You can read it in lots of books and they'll tell you monkey mind and all of this stuff, which is nice. It's nice theory. But if you don't catch it when it's happening, oh, that's just nice information. You got to be able to go, whoa, that's not me. It, 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 being able to stop it talking is, I don't know, that's like super, that must be super advanced. Okay. It's talking when it talks. It's whether or not you give it weight. You've got to be able to let it just, okay, thanks, thanks, thanks. Yeah, yeah, no, I'm not going there. I'm staying present. No. What do they think about? Who cares? Let's stay present. Yeah, but what if I get it wrong? No, stay present. So that takes training, and I do train people with that such that they're able to not get, you can be here. Like the way to put it, the way I describe it is just like you're here trying to have a conversation, but you're in here. You're in here in all this noise and you're engaging in all that stuff. And that's not who you are. You have to pierce out of that and be present and have your attention over there with the person. I got to be with you, not paying attention to what the heck's going on with me internally. My thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, that's not who I am. I have thoughts, but I'm not the thoughts. They're automatic. And no, and then there's intellectual effort. That's different. When I'm intentionally, you know, figuring something out, that's one thing. But when I'm just engaging in whatever thoughts happen to happen in my head, like that's me, I'm now not me. I am now that. I'm the thoughts. I am identified with the thoughts like they are me. It's me thinking. Well, it's me, isn't it? It's me talking. That's me. That's your brain tricking you into thinking it's you. So you now believe it's you. Now your brain's running your life and you think it's you. There's actual, they've done work with the brain now they can see what's happening, the activity in the brain, right? And you think it's you. Oh, I'll pick up this cup and I'll have a drink, right? But up to 7 seconds before the activity, your brain is aware of what's happening in your environment. And then the muscles are getting ready to pounce, like the leopard's getting ready to pounce. The brains are getting all ready to move. And then just before it happens, 0.7 of a second, I believe, you get the thought. It sends a thought. And you go, oh, I'll have a cup of tea. But it was already planning it. You are alluded to thinking it's you doing it. Your brain is doing it. It's like, oh man,
I learning to be present, even though because most of the people are using the word training to in-class training, like there is someone with a lot of slides showing. But I guess when you say training to somebody, helping them to be more present is more about the practice, the regular practice, so that you don't even have to think about it. When you
Mm.
feel these voices coming to your head when you are having an human interaction, to catch it is about repetition and repetition. So and that made me think, so in all this leadership training, and we know that it's like billions of dollars of industry, there is so much investment. Are corporates doing it wrong? Instead of helping people to transfer knowledge through PowerPoint slides, isn't it about practice? And we don't need this bloody 3 days training about leadership, but we need somebody who can help us just start the practice and start the micro actions that can be repetitive enough so that we acquire it in a reflexive manner. Are we doing it wrong, this training stuff?
Well, yeah, well, um, like I said earlier, knowledge is, knowing isn't the access to being, but there is a certain knowing. So if you look at a really great example is learning to ride a bicycle, right? So, people you could do PowerPoints all day. You could read books, you could watch videos, you could everyone tell you exactly what to do, but it doesn't mean when you get on a bicycle, if you've never gone on, that you can ride it.
Yeah.
All that knowledge doesn't help. It kind of points you in the right direction, but you get on the bike, it doesn't help. But you've got to discover it for yourself. You've got to try this and try that. And at some point, oh, and then there is the moment where you get it. You get balance. Now you got balance. You've got it forever. It's yours. Yes? You
Yeah.
can't unlearn it once you've got it. Once you've seen it, you've got it. So in the kind of work I do, I have to have people discover that voice in their head is not them. And once they get that, oh, wow. Now it's like getting balance. You see, now they can catch it. Now they can see it for what it is when it shows up. So you don't have to take a long time. Once you've got it, once you see it, it's catching it. Now you might fall off the wagon and get caught again. And but the moment you get it pointed out to you, oh yeah, I'm just being my thoughts. Okay, boom, because you get it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's a different kind of learning. It's not loads of PowerPoint slides.
Mm.
No, they're who cares? Can you catch yourself when you're, going down the tunnel of getting into your head and worrying and, you're in a with yourself, Oh, shoot. Yeah. Okay. The moment you see it, you can let it go and be present.
Now, I wanted to have my final question about certain recommendations from your side. So, from just to start, of course, I really recommend people to go and start reading Free to Lead, your book, so that they can learn a little bit more about how to lead with authenticity. And I know that there is a couple of chapters that are related to the to being present. What other books would you recommend that have impacted you about this feeling of being present as a leader?
I think The Power of Now is great. I mean, I
Yeah.
mentioned that before, but
Mm.
that's a difficult book, right? Because it's a book. So, and with my book too, I with books what we're talking about. For me, if you can get the audio book and the book at the same time, there's a chance it's going to penetrate. Versus
Mm.
just be, yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that. You've got to, when I listened to Eckhart Tolle talking, for example, he's got, my first impression was, I don't like his voice. It's horrible. He's got this funny accent. It sounds a bit whiny. I
German
don't like
accent.
it. All right. However, it penetrates. It penetrates. So after a while, I kind of got used to it, and it kind of like, it actually has a way of getting through to you, and I think that's the same. That's why I insisted on myself doing the audiobook. You know, I narrated my own book for the audiobook because there's a way I deliver. There's a way I know it, you know, so I got the intention in the right place. Whereas unfortunately everything's open to interpretation. But if you listen to the audiobook, which people are loving, you know, I think you'll get it, you know. And maybe it's a book, well, I intended it to be a book that you listen to many times or you read many times, because every time you read it, you can see something new. I don't think you'll read it and get it all in one go, but that's okay. You've got to do that. And then you read it and then you just pick bits of it and pick on the bits that you want. You know, I spent 14 months writing and reading this book, because I was committed that it's a book that actually makes a difference. I've read a lot of books that maybe I can remember one thing about it, you know, or yeah, that was about that. Oh yeah, I remember that. You know, didn't alter me who I am. It didn't open me up as a human being. And I wanted this book to do that. So almost every chapter has an exercise to do, you know. Do the exercise. You do the exercise, things are going to happen for you. I know. My dad was listening to the audiobook. Okay. My dad is 86. And I was upstairs, I was working, I was staying with them. And I could hear, oh, he's got the audiobook. It's me talking, you know, and I do this big share about when I was 3. You know, my dad told this whole family the story of how I came along. He said, you know, we couldn't afford a third baby. And then mum got pregnant and we had 2 boys already. So we were looking forward to a little girl and you popped out. You should have been a little girl. Everyone's laughing. Me, I was devastated because I made that mean in that moment. They didn't want me. And they really didn't want me because they wanted a girl. So for me in that moment, I'm now unwanted. I made this decision. I'm the best. So I become in life proving, my whole life was proving I'm the best. That's what my whole life was about. And it's like, wow. Now I'm listening to my dad listen to that story being related in the book. And I'm listening. He goes, I never said that. I didn't. He's like outraged, right? I go down and said, look, you might, who knows? That's my memory. You said whatever you said, and I remember whatever I heard, and it's not even that. It's what I then did with it. That's what I'm left with. That's what shaped me, not what happened. So, and I said, so, you know, how are you finding the book? He goes, I'm disturbed. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we need to get disturbed sometimes to kind of shake us up. But a few days later, I move away, you know, I'm in Italy at the moment. So, and then I ring him up and I said, you know, how's it going? He says, I did it. I said, what? Him and my eldest brother have never really got on, you know. He comes and visits them once a week and it's kind of a frosty atmosphere and it's kind of awkward and they don't really talk, right? He said, I did it. He said, first time in my life, I told him, I said, what? He said, you know, he says, it wasn't easy. He said, I said, you know, I want you to know I love you. No, he's 86. The first time he told my brother that, you know, I said, what did my brother say? He said, I should think you do and all. That was their conversation, right? But that's a miracle. That was never going to happen. He got that from reading the book. And then like another week later, I call up and I'm talking to my dad, you know, because we do it on the video phone, you know, on the Teams. And I can hear in the background my brother. And there's all this jovialness going on and this fun talking and they're having a laugh. And like, wow, it's transformed their whole experience together. See, this is transformational, this book. And that's why I made it the way I made it, you know. And yeah, I could have done a book in a day. I could have got AI to write a book. It knows everything about me, writes the book, sends it out. Hey, I've written a book. Aren't I great? No, I didn't want that. I wanted a book that actually impacts people's lives and makes a difference. And that's why it is what it's called. You know, it's free to lead, freeing people up. And I say everyone can be a leader. They just don't believe it because they've got limiting beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. So just the takeaways is if you have to pick up some recommendations out of this episode, Definitely the audiobook of Free to Lead. That would be good. Then we have mentioned the Power of Now from Eckhart. From my side, I have two books that I really enjoyed, especially because I am someone who needs a little bit of science, a little bit of understanding what there is behind. Two books that about being present. The Search Inside Yourself from one of the Google employees who decided to explain being present for tech people. I loved it.
Mm.
And then I love the fact that Dan Harris, with I think it's called 10% Happiness, explain for people who don't believe in these stories about being present, authenticity, and also he's mixing a little bit of research with his personal story. I loved it. 10% happy.
10% happy. Look
Yes,
out for it.
yes, and I love the story behind. He's a journalist in one of these American shows, so it was quite good, and there is a lot of science in it because it's made for people who don't believe in that crap. Exactly.
Mm, mm,
That's
mm,
why I
mm.
loved it. Well, it was so nice to speak to you. Is there any ways that my audience can reach out to you to ask you questions to have an initial understanding about authenticity, about being present, about being a better leader?
Yeah, I mean, obviously read the book, and if you're, if you're seriously, you're up to something and you want support and help, I coach leaders, I coach business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are up to something. Uh, if you're curious, if you're committed and you're coachable, and you'd like to explore the possibility of that, then I'm open to a conversation, and I do conversations with people, obviously,
Mm,
for that. And if you're up to something, you're not on your own. You're not on your own. You don't have to be on your own. I can support you, and you can be the fullest version of yourself and accomplish what you really want to accomplish in the world.
amazing. So one of the ways to reach you out, I guess, is with your website,
Yeah,
willstill.com. I'm going to put
yeah.
it below this
Willsteele.com.
episode.
Yeah. Or you could email me at info@willsteele.com.
Yeah. Okay, so that's amazing. Will, thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the best and looking forward to reconnect again.
Ivan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.